Previously on Press Pause.
The enemy of our soul has figured out that the more he feeds us, the less chance there's going to be that we're going to ever actually just sit still long enough to hear anything from God, be still, know that he's God.
And silence takes time, right? Like we need to retrain our brains to have those moments. Be still and know that I'm God.
Finding the intentionality to ask God, like, help me rest.
Okay, trying to finish the word in a year and trying to do my Psalms and trying to do this. And I found myself just rushing through it. And I'm like, I don't even know what I read. I don't even know what I'm thinking. Here's this quote. I'm going to read it to you guys. I'll read it twice because it's pretty deep. And then I'm going to ask you your thoughts. Okay? The word Selah itself indeed causes us to pause and consider what God may be saying even when we don't fully understand. Selah gives us an opportunity to take a moment away from this crazy, busy, nonstop life we all tend to live and consider the immense mysteries and wonders of God. I'm going to read it again. The word Selah itself indeed causes us to pause and consider what God may be saying even when we don't fully understand. Selah gives us an opportunity to take a moment away from this crazy, busy, nonstop life we all tend to live and consider the immense mysteries and wonders of God. What are your thoughts on that quote?
Here's the scary part of that quote. I think it's true. I think it's a true quote. Here's the scary part is that there are attributes and depths and parts of God's personality that we will never experience until we learn Sabbath, pausing everything else. And so then if that's true and yet I don't see the value in this, now my view of God is not nearly as complete as it could be. Not that we'll ever fully understand, but man, if I'm just getting a drop of what I should be getting a gallon of, and then I'm like, that's not even doing anything in my life anyway, and it all comes back to, pause. And
that is so scary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think, I agree. There's revelation God wants to give us.
Amen.
And we barely began to scratch the surface.
Yeah.
And God's like, well, you let me know. It's in the silence. It's in those Selahs that I want to do it. And I think we have to get hungry. I think this season is perfect to just be like, God, give me the hunger. I might not be predisposed. I might not be normally inclined to this. But God, let this pause be like an openness and, hands up, white flag in my life where you come and take over and reveal things to me. You know how much we need? Thinking about just not only who God is, but how I need him in particular and specific areas in my life, solutions, wisdom for my family, wisdom at work. There's stuff God's ready to give us, but we don't tap into it because we don't take the time to listen.
Yeah. And I think that when we don't do that, but we desperately need that part of God, but we won't seek it in that way, that's just when we become super weird and we start searching for theology that will agree with, well, God is actually this. And so, and we go and we know who to have the conversations with to talk us out of, maybe I'm missing something. No, you're not missing anything. All you need to do is just read and we are still searching for that part of God that is going to get us through the season, but we're not searching for it because that is probably the hardest way for us to do it. Silence ourselves, silence our mind, take our thoughts captive, just sit in his presence. That is harder for us now than doing some research that will, eventually just tell us exactly what we want to think and not necessarily the truth.
It feels like God's like a long form God.
Yeah.
And when we're not willing to do that, then we go back to short form, like sound bites.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to get our theology now instead. Yeah.
And it's very scary.
I also think with the word mystery, it's okay to have mystery. It's okay to let God be. And for me not to know some of these things and these aspects. In other words, like I need to trust him in who he is in that fullness, even though I don't have the full revelation of it. And that's fine. I think, Protestants have a hard time. We have a hard time with mystery. We want to know the final study and the deep depth. And it's like, you don't need to know. Sometimes you have to let it be. Let God be. Yeah. And bask in that glory of that mystery. Yeah. And he has you. He's got it. And that's okay too. Yeah.
And there's almost nothing that is a mystery anymore. Like we all know too much about everything.
You can Google it.
Yeah, and I mean, like celebrities' lives. It used to be like, it's like, no, now they have a vlog and how this system works. Oh, I'll tell you how healthcare prices their bills. Like all like things that you're like, I don't even want to know this. Yeah. We know it. So the fact that God is not going to change, and he's like, well, I'm still going to have mystery within me. So you seek me. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
When was the last time you experienced a moment of awe or reverence for God? How did you respond in that moment? I can answer first. The last time, it's funny because it became my moment, but it wasn't my original awakening. Reese, our videographer, hi Reese, he made a comment during voice conference, and he had said that the idea for us to even as humans to even capture the kingdom of God or what that is, he said it was the altar moment at the end of our voice conference. He's like, when you step back and you see everyone praying over here and praying for each other and people on their face and this one over here worshiping, not caring about the schedule, not caring, just basking in the presence of God. He's like, this is what heaven will be like. And I was like, oh, dope. So then this past voice conference, I just kind of sat back at one moment and I saw that just everyone just entering in and just being in one accord and just being in awe of the reverence of God and just not necessarily being like, God, give me this, tell me that, show me this. It was just like, and it was just so beautiful and just so awesome.
There's something especially breathtaking about a group of people experiencing the awe of God at the same time and that reverence and that, oh my gosh, he's here.
Yeah.
And then I think the danger and the only danger in that is that sometimes you think that's it's like only in a group setting where you can experience that. Cause honestly, and this sounds like, I don't know if it sounds self-serving or sounds like overly spiritual, overly pastoral or anything like that. But my initial answer to that was literally going to be like, probably this morning or yesterday morning, or like, it's just, I really do have these windows when I'm praying, and it's kind of like some of the stuff we've talked about. It's usually when God goes, hello, by the way, I'm here if you're interested, like in the midst of all of your list of things you want me to accomplish, I'm here if you're interested. And so it's like he does whisper that, and I go, that's right. And let me just worship for a second. Let me just be here for a second. And I mean, I don't know, like I do sense just the wonder of God at that point and the goodness of God. Sometimes in those moments, I've been serving God a long time, and I've preached about as many things about him I know how to preach, but yet there's still these moments where I'm just like, man, you're so much better than I have ever come close to understanding, articulating, or whatever. So those can happen. I mean, he said, you'll find me when you seek me with all of your heart. Those things can happen all by yourself, anywhere you are. I mean, he'll show up.
Amen. Yeah, thank God.
I mean, I think of going to the beach, right? Mm-hmm. These are the moments that I treasure for that kind of experience. I go, most of the time when I go to the beach, I go deep by myself. And of course, I have my family, hey, stop it, you're too. But I go all the way in. And in the deepest moment when I barely can stand and I am about to be at risk, I sense the danger of the water, which reminds me that I'm not in control. The magnitude of the moment, which reminds me that I'm small.
Yeah.
The curvature of the sky, which reminds me that I'm in God's chapel, right? Sorry, flat earthers, the earth is curved. But when you're out there, I just sense God so deeply, and I surrender. I have some of the most powerful moments with the Lord out in the beach.
Yeah.
And I thought of that when you mentioned that.
Yeah. In nature, it's out there. There's certain things that I've seen. I don't know if you've ever been to Montserrat close to Barcelona.
No.
It's like these mountains, and Gaudi, the artist, he says it's the fingers of God. It's like the knuckles of God. And if you see the mountain, I remember seeing it and I'm just like, I literally tears and I'm like, God, you're everywhere. You're so beautiful. Yeah. It's like the nature. I mean, the Bible says that in Romans, that you see the qualities of God, and it's amazing. Yeah. So I feel
overwhelming.
You. Yeah. I'm going to try that next time on the beach. Try to almost drown.
We're like, wait, don't.
See God. Right?
Sorry.
Rip current.
Dramatic.
No, I agree. Yeah. I went on a trip recently and it was to Scotland. It sounds like I'm really trying to flex, but it just was because the scenery was so crazy. And I remember we were on a hike and we were dying. Like we were like, we got to get down this,
get out of here,
whatever. But I remember looking and I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, and just realizing God made that. And it's like a relatively untouched like area where it's just nature. But I first thought when you said that was anytime we sing a song in church or it's on the radio or I'm in this part of the Bible that just talks about the end. Like talks about, well, when he comes, when we see you face to face, when the trumpet sounds.
Ooh,
and I mean, I'm literally, I could be doing anything and it'll be immediate tears. And, like, I think I'm a youth group kid. So, like, we grow up and we're like, Lord, I want you to come back. Not before I get married. Lord, I want you to come back. Like, we have those moments. And so now, in my current stage of life where everything is so crazy, it's like just the one thought of like, yeah, but he's coming back again. It centers me. It destroys me. Like, and just thinking, oh, wow, none of this matters. Okay, actually, wow, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. Yeah. And immediately, whenever any hint of that conversation comes up, what used to bring fear when I was little, like now I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like let's go. When is that happening?
When I see you face to face, wipe every tear from your eye. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm just
Lord.
like, and it's just, and now it's immediate because it's like your soul immediately is like, this is what I want. This is actually like all the things you're worried about. No, this is what I'm looking forward to. And I'm like,
I think our flesh yearns for that moment. So it's naturally literally nature cries out for the liberation of our souls.
Yeah. It's so good. Okay, I know we've listed it a little bit, but I just want to kind of spell it out a little bit more for everybody. What are some practical things we can do as we pause in this season of pause, this whole entire month? What are some practical things?
It's this guy right here. He's got look at my cute phone case, but this just has to go away somehow. I think my husband actually started doing this because he read this book, Digital Minimalism, and it was like, just try to use your phone as just a phone. See what it would be like to not use it to the full capacity of everything it can do. And like, what if you just used it to call people and to text people, and that I'm like, well, that first of all sounds impossible, right?
So you did that for 4 minutes.
Yeah. So then I was like, well, I don't like this. Good luck, Gio. But yeah, even that, like imagine that this is just there to actually communicate to friends and family when you need to. And that'll free up a lot of our time.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I think retaking the secret place, whatever that is for you, wherever that is in your house, whatever time that means, right, for you, like retake it. If you lost it due to busyness, if you lost it due to like even disorder in the house, like no, find that spot and because the Lord's been waiting for you there since where you left them. I just, I've been convicted of that a lot. I pray, but then the Lord was like, don't forget our secret place. I think that's jealous about time with us and our place with us. I'm not trying to say the place is holy, but there is something where God just sees wherever we devote our time with him, that's special to him.
Yeah, that's good.
Just like it's special to us in a relationship, whatever place marks our relationship. Yeah. Anyway, I just think secret place, grab it, occupy it if you left it.
Yeah. A season of fasting and prayer is the practical. And so, fasting is, if we just were very, very simple, it's really disconnecting from the world and from our flesh and whatever. And then prayer is really just connecting to God. And so I think sometimes the mistake we make, and even in seasons like this, is we turn fasting into a bit of a hunger strike where we're going to show God that he needs to do this and this. And there's nothing wrong with having some things we're praying and believing for. But fasting doesn't twist God's arm. Yeah. Fasting is it's less of me. It should free up some time slots if it's meals or if it's social media or whatever. It should free up some time slots. So now let's add some times of prayer. And so that's been for years. People have asked me like, what do you do when you get into a spiritual rut, which happens to the best of us? And my answer to that is I usually add a prayer time. And so if I pray in the mornings, normally I'll pray in the morning and I'll do a prayer walk at night, or I'll do a lunch prayer thing. Like I'll just bump one, and those, it seems like those non-routine prayer times then become pretty awesome because there is no routine to it, and it's just I'm literally wanting to spend some extra time with God, and so I would just encourage you, don't miss that part of a season like this, of the extra time with God and the extra emphasis on your spiritual life. This isn't a big diet plan for for the church or anything like that. No, fasting is there to disconnect.
Yeah. That's good. I think one of the cool things people can do too is like look at your whole year, because we're like we fast, we want more of God, and then also we want our things that we want in our families, in our lives. I think one thing that's really cool to do is just like, God, how do you want me to serve you this year? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How can I serve you? What ministry should I be a part of? What mission trip can I go on? What is it that you want from me, my time this year? And just hearing from God on that. Because that's just it's such a great principle to involve your life, just acts of service. I'm like, what do you want me to do? What do you want my family to do? What can we, I don't know, just hearing from him at the beginning of the year, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do, and committing to that ministry or that particular outreach or that mission trip. I think it could really shape your year and then impact your life.
Yeah.
So good.
What are some challenges that could arise during the season of pause? And as in like maybe just personally too, to be like, this is something that like, it'll happen on, week 3 of the fast or day 2 of the fast, or what are some challenges that could possibly arise, and how can you combat them?
One challenge that arises sometimes is like hunger.
Yeah.
And or cravings.
But then you just eat, right? Because if you're hungry, that means God said you don't have to fast anymore.
It is funny that sometimes I think there is a mindset that says if I'm doing this for God, then God should make it fully easy, and I shouldn't even feel the physical part of this or the headache or the whatever. And I don't. I mean, I think that's part of defeating our flesh is that, and so, I mean, it's been funny through the years. I've just had different conversations with different people, and it's stuff like, well, I was going to fast this, but, I was going to fast all food, or I was going to fast all meat, and then, man, the second day, I was just so, my stomach was so hungry, and I was feeling, so I did eat a little, and I mean, we're not fast police. Like, we don't allow anybody to be fast police during the fast. But it is funny to me that like that was the motivation. It turned out I felt something, and I didn't want to. But that is, that's it is going to be. It's not. Fasting's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be pleasing to the flesh and feel right and feel good. It's actually meant the opposite, and so you got to press through that. I think you do. There are hurdles you get over. You start to get into a groove, and. I think it does get easier, but it's not meant to be easy. And so just be okay with that. Be okay with it being, there's some challenge
you
to
will
this.
be hungry.
Yeah.
And you'll crave the phone, and all the stuff we're talking about. You're wired now at this point to have that dopamine hit every second. So yes, you're going to feel weird without it, but that's the point.
Sometimes the weirdness is a good feeling. You realize, man, I'm an animal.
Yeah, you realize
when you're like, I need my phone, or how many times you go to check Instagram, you're like, what is wrong with me? It's an awakening too, to be like, man, I need to work on this.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. Right. We're not over spiritual. We can't over spiritualize that experience. I love that because at first, the first few days are really tough in a fast, right?
The first are the hardest.
I don't know if you go through it, but I go through it. My body goes whack, like my mind. I'm like, why do I feel so weird? Yeah. It's because the body it's not used to not getting everything it wants, and it's rebelling against you almost, and that doesn't feel spiritual. Yeah, but it's very much a spiritual part of the experience, right? So I love that. I think something that is not super important, but the variety of food I miss. I know this doesn't sound spiritual, but I begin to crave a different variety of food. And so I'm like, so that's a struggle. And I'm talking week 3, or whatever, as we're getting deeper, I'm like, man, I want. And so you want to know what's the funny?
American.
I know.
The variety of food.
I know. First world problems. You want to know what's the easy solution? Faith Cafe. I come here and somehow we figure out a way to cook something different in a way that's daddy friendly. Yep. I come in and I'm like,
Yeah. Did you just say Danny friendly?
Yeah.
Danny
I've
friendly.
never heard
He's
that.
our friend.
Really?
Danny. Yeah. I go
Danny
Daniel.
fast?
We're just on a more professional basis. Me and Daniel.
Wow.
Danny
I've heard that all
friendly.
my life. I don't know why.
Wow.
Danny friendly.
Danny friendly.
Yeah,
I
it
like
makes it
it.
seem less scary. I think we used to make the joke too, like during the fast, you'll get invited to
Of
every
course.
free lunch. That Texas Day Brazil.
Yeah.
Every
Yes.
birthday party, someone will bake a cake and leave it at your house. And it's just like hilarious how often that happens. But I think too, on like a spiritual level, I think we are doing a spiritual thing that obviously has physical effects, but we also just can't be surprised when things start happening. You know, when maybe you are losing some sleep, or maybe you do get some bad news, or maybe, you know, you get in a fight with your spouse, like something happens, and then sometimes we're like, well, I'm doing so much for God right now, I can't even believe this happened, and we quit. And I think it's realizing, no, we're really taking a spiritual stand. Fasting is extremely spiritual, and it really opens up your eyes to the spiritual realm and all these things. So yeah, I mean, the enemy who wouldn't want us to do this is obviously going to bring some stuff into our life to maybe be like, I don't know if this is really worth it. You know, like you fasted enough, you should quit.
Yeah.
I think we can also expect to go through that so that it doesn't throw us off our game when it does happen. And just like the hunger thing, it's like, okay, well, yeah, this is happening, but this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think we don't give up. And especially like fasting is the time to wage spiritual warfare on things that otherwise, you know, seem like this isn't really moving.
Yeah.
Something that happens. And the power of our prayers and just the weakness of our flesh.
They're more powerful.
Yeah.
They're more in line with God's will because the
and
flesh
you're
is
like,
involved in it.
you're vibing with God on it too. Like, you're like, oh, I didn't even think to pray for this. And I didn't even think to come against this. And I don't know if there's, and that is, you really see on the other side of I'm hungry and I'm still going to keep fasting.
Yeah. Your mind really does shift even in the fast. You start thinking differently and you're like,
Yeah.
why am I thinking this? Or why did I
All of a sudden you have
choose
words for
this?
everyone. You're
Yes.
like, hey, God said that. God
that's
said
so
you know,
true.
And it's just,
No, God's voice becomes oddly clear.
Yeah.
You know, usually those seasons, for me, there will be things that I'm maybe thinking about solutions to, or I'm thinking about, you know, how I'm going to accomplish this ministry assignment that I, you know, so there might be 50 of those, and maybe I've spent a long time thinking about the answers, and then a season of fasting, it's just like answer, and it's just like, I'm like, oh man, have you always been this accessible?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's
And
real.
then he says yes.
he's like,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think, I was reminded of Jehoshaphat, right? They were going to go into battle, and he says, no, let's just fast and pray, like pause. He hit pause before a battle, heard from God, I was assured of God's victory, and then went to battle. So we don't do that enough. Like, we have battles ahead of us. We have the year ahead of us.
Yeah.
And we don't pause to say, God, are you with me on this one or are you not?
Yeah.
Like, I need a check. It's okay, right? But what a blessing that when he is, he'll give you the victory.
Yeah.
Greater victories that we've ever had or thought of.
Yeah.
Supernaturally won, by the way. So it's like we have the tools we forget. So I like that pausing reminds us.
Yeah.
Pausing is also remembering.
Yeah.
Remember
that's
who you
good.
are.
Yeah.
Remember what he's done. Remember the tools you have.
Yeah.
It's like, what a reset.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, what are some tips you guys have for anyone who is fasting or beginning a devotion time during this season? Just some practical tips on fasting, practical tips on praying.
I mean, set a specific time and place. That
Yeah.
is just as basic to me. Keep it away from as much as possible, like either before everybody wakes up or after everybody goes to bed. Like, just keep interruptions at a minimal.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to interrupt something God may be telling you.
One thing that we have in our H-Roll discipleship class, it's Pastor Johnnie wrote it, but it was like set an appointment like the day before with God. And she's like, what time am I going to meet with God tomorrow? I'm like, 8 p.m. And once you set that appointment, it's in your mind all day, and it helps you stick to it / you don't want to miss an appointment you make with God.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a covenant that you make there, but it does help. Okay, tomorrow at 8, I'm going to see you there, God, you know? So like doing that, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think with fasting, and some of you have probably already in this season, but if you haven't yet, I think setting out what your fast is going to be beforehand is really important. If you just go into it going, I don't know how long I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm exactly going to give up.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do something. Like, then the flesh will kick in. And so I would, it's pretty important, to go, hey, for 21 days, I'm going to do this. Or for the first 7 days, I'm going to do Daniel fast. For the next 7 days, I'm going to do a food fast. And for the final 7, but I would say like maybe have that written down somewhere, have that, logged somewhere that what this thing's going to be. And I would also, in that, it should stretch us. It should be, again, it should be something that that our flesh doesn't want us to do. I think that's the other funny thing. Sometimes I'll fast, zucchini this time. I'm like, well, do you ever eat? No, I don't do, but I'm going to fast it, so like it like stretch yourself, go for it. And the reward will be great. It'll be worth it.
Yeah. And I think you can also, if you're just so like scared, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to fail immediately. Like just get someone else involved with you, like reach out to friends that are also fasting and just be like, hey, just letting you know, I'm fasting this for this 21 days. And it's not like so that they can police you and so that you have to, do it for them. But it's just letting someone else know, and even just verbalizing or writing down, I'm going to do this, like way better chance that you'll do it. And then, people to help along the way. Oh yeah, I know. Oh man, today I know I almost ate a fry. Like just things like that, like, okay, so everyone else is hungry. Everyone else is feeling this too, and there's something about going through it together.
He said about eating a fry one time. This is way back. We were doing. I was doing a total food fast for 21 days, and I was probably on day. We were into it, so we were probably like day 14 or 15 or something like that. And it was a Sunday night, and we were playing basketball in the gym at the Goldenrod campus, and so I was just playing, and not at that point, not thinking about being on a fast. I'm just playing basketball. And I remember this so clearly, but one of my kids had a bag of Skittles on the sideline. And so they're eating. And then mid-game, they were like, it's like something happened and it stopped for a second. And they're like, Dad, do you want some? And I was like, oh. So I held it in my hand. I popped them in. And the moment that flavor like hit I was like, what have I done? Because it was that's when it was so foreign to my body at that point.
You tasted the rainbow.
Yes, I did. And so then everything I was fasting for was then gone.
And it didn't matter anymore.
Like, okay, you're out.
And then, disqualified.
Bummer.
We had one time, us and our friends, we were talking about the Daniel's fast. And we were talking about like things on the Daniel's fast that like, well, I might not eat this because it's so easy. Like, some people won't eat rice or won't eat French fries or things that you can technically eat. So we were talking about those things like, oh, I know, I just really want to eat this. Again, it's still Daniel's fast friendly, but it's a little bit like, well, I kind of don't want to eat this during this time. And so then my friend's new boyfriend, who had just kind of come into the group, he didn't understand exactly what we were talking about. And he was doing the Daniel's fast. And so he just went, I know, today I stopped and I got a McChicken. So my friend was like, I can't believe you said that in front of him. And we were all like, oh, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of people too that are, as we talk about all this, there's people who are doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
This might be overwhelming. So I did remember we have an amazing guide, right? Fasting guide for the 21 days. Yeah. We have books at Faith Books that have to do with fasting. If you want to read a little bit more, we have a grow class on fasting. Yeah. So we have tools, right? We don't want to keep you out there in the dark. Yeah. It can seem overwhelming. Start little, join others. Do it.
Yeah, and you mess up and then you start again. It's again, it's not a goal, it's not a competition. So it isn't like, oh, I messed up on day 13 and now it's worth nothing. It's like, no, it's okay. Like
I'm going to fast so much better than all
of
you. Though. I know it's not a competition, but I am going to
Let's see who does it better.
Fast so much faster.
Fast so much faster.
My fast is going to be over in 6 days.
I always like to just tell Jesus I was kidding when I
kid
about spiritual pride.
I think, like even if you do mess up, not welcoming anyone to, I'm like, just to get up the next day and just try again. Yeah. Like just keep at it. I do think there's such a good, even just in the flesh being like, I'm going to commit to this goal for 21 days and actually doing it. Like you feel good. And even that discipline, when you realize I can do that, you don't realize how much you're like, oh, well, I can try this. I can do that. It is such a stepping stone in discipline that I've seen just time after time. You have to hear people who can do a 21-day fast. They then think, okay, well then, yes, I can hit this goal in my giving. Yes, I can hit this goal at the gym. I can do this. So it is such a discipline that just affects your entire life.
Yeah.
We are about to wrap it up, but just want to open up any final words on Selah, on Sabbath, on fasting, on praying, on anything before we wrap it up. Something that you want to make sure to say to all our millions of viewers at home.
It's a lot of pressure when you think about the viewership.
People.
I think it sounds cliche. I really feel like I just want to say this, but you can do it. Like, don't count yourself out. Don't think this is for the spiritual crowd. This is for those that have been serving God for longer. This is those that have fasted before. Like, whatever, all those little things. Like, you can do it, and it will be worth it. That's the short answer for me.
Yeah. Mine seems more negative after that encouragement, but John Mark Comer has a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and he talks a lot about rest. And so in one of the first chapters, which is as far as I've gotten, he talks about how we've lost our Sabbath, but then at the end, he's like, he kind of explains what it looks like and the speed of everything. And he's like, have we really lost our Sabbath, or have we lost our souls? And he's like, because we find restoration and we find healing, and all of these things exist in the Sabbath. So if we've actually given that up, what have we really given up? Mm-hmm. And so I think really the seriousness of, no, I have to stop, because I think in this season, a lot of us will realize how long we've been running on empty. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be amazing is realizing, oh, the pause filled me up. And now for the rest of this year, the rest of this season, I'm going to keep doing what I was doing because it's my job and it's my life. But wow, I'm going to do it with my full tank and my full cup. It makes so much of a difference.
Yeah, amen.
Can I add to that real quick? Because that's pretty awesome. It wasn't nearly as negative as you warned it might be. But I have talked to people who were battling maybe a serious illness but didn't know it. And they would maybe they had been battling it for 6 months. Mm. And then when they start to heal, that I've heard them say, I didn't even realize how exhausted I was. Yeah. I didn't even realize how sick I was. Yeah. And now that I feel good, the contrast is so, eye-opening for me. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, here we are going, you might need this for your soul so much more than you feel. Yep. You think this is life, doing life with a sick soul and hurried and busy, and what you don't even know what it feels like to like be whole. Yeah. It's scary. Yeah.
Oof. I think that we Sabbath intentionally, or life forces us to Sabbath. So just like, right? Because when you don't rest and then you're going to have to, you might get sick, you might go through burnout, whatever. And then you end up Sabbathing. And God's like, I told
Sabbathing, I like that word.
You could have done it. Sabbathing is the thing. You could have done it intentionally or forced into it. Forced. I mean, so let's intentionally go and say, no, I actually want to put myself under this discipline and spend that time with the Lord so that my body, my soul, my health can rest.
Yeah. And as a church, like, we're believing for big things this year, have new vision, new ideas, just growth, personal healings, miracles, wonders. Like, we're tapping into it. Yeah. Yep. So we should just all do it. All get it so that God can move.
I'm going to do it. I decided after this podcast, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Isaiah 40:31. This is our theme verse for this season of the FaithCast. Is Isaiah 40:31. It says this: "But those who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." So pause on that. Thank you so much for joining on this episode.
Historic first episode.
Historic first episode.
Breaking.
Okay.
Yes.
Which technically this is part 2. So they will watch part 1 first, hopefully, unless they just skip to part 2. But make sure to click and subscribe. If you click on it, we'll actually remind you whenever the episode is up, because you don't want to miss any of these, because this is going to be insane. We have different guests with us every episode. I hope you guys enjoy. Take care.